Have you ever felt like someone was reading your mind, no matter how hard we try to hide who we really are, putting on masks, choosing our words carefully, rehearsing our responses? Our brain betrays us constantly, every single day, without even realizing it. You're leaking information about your deepest self through tiny, almost invisible behaviors. Today, you're going to discover 7 small things that reveal a shocking amount about who you truly are, things you never thought twice about, things that seem completely harmless on the surface. But to a trained eye, or after watching this video, they become a full psychological profile. And I'm warning you right now, pay very close attention to number 7. It's a subtle, almost toxic habit that millions of people do every single day without realizing it. And it immediately reveals whether someone has a hidden superiority complex. I guarantee you're going to want to know if you do it, or if someone close to you does. But let's start from the ground up. Literally. Number 1. The type of shoes you wear. Most often, you know that pair of worn-out sneakers you absolutely refuse to throw away. The ones you've had for years, with the creases and the scuffed soles. Well, those shoes are screaming your personality to the entire world, and you didn't even give them permission to do it. A landmark study from the University of Kansas found something remarkable. We can accurately predict about 90% of a stranger's core personality traits just by looking at their shoes. Let that sink in for a second. 90% from footwear alone. So what does your choice of shoes say about you? If you tend to wear very comfortable shoes, think classic sneakers, worn loafers, soft flats, science says you're likely an agreeable, easygoing person. You prioritize how you feel over how you look, and people around you generally find you approachable and low maintenance. You're the kind of person who makes others feel at ease. But here's where it gets really interesting. What about people who wear uncomfortable shoes purely for aesthetics? High heels they can barely walk in, tight dress shoes, stiff boots, worn not for function, but for image. Psychologists have found a curious pattern. These individuals often appear very calm and composed on the outside, but internally they're carrying suppressed pain, unresolved tension, or deep emotional conflicts. The discomfort they tolerate physically mirrors discomfort they're used to carrying emotionally. If you tend to gravitate toward ankle boots or combat-style footwear, studies suggest a tendency toward assertiveness, sometimes even a hint of aggression. You like control, you like being taken seriously, you don't wait for permission. And what about people whose shoes are always brand new, spotless, and impeccable? No matter what? Be careful here. That obsessive attention to the condition of their footwear is often linked to anxious personality types. People who need order, who fear unpredictability, who feel that external perfection compensates for internal chaos. So I want you to pause for just a second. Look down. What shoes are you wearing right now? And more importantly, what do they say about you? Number 2, where you look. While you're drinking, this one is going to completely change how you observe people in social situations. The next time you're having coffee with someone or sharing drinks at a dinner, watch their eyes the moment they take a sip. It sounds almost too simple, but the act of drinking creates a microsecond of psychological vulnerability. Your guard drops just for a moment, and your eyes instinctively go to where your mind actually lives. If someone looks out over the rim of their glass, scanning the room, watching other people, taking in their surroundings, you're looking at a textbook extrovert. This person trusts easily, engages openly, and has a generally optimistic, carefree view of life. They're energized by the world around them, even during the quiet moment of taking a drink. If someone's gaze drops down into the glass, almost like they're staring into the liquid, that's a deeply introspective person, focused, idealistic, the kind of person who has rich inner worlds, who thinks deeply about things, who doesn't just skim the surface of ideas or relationships. But here's the one that really gets me. What about someone who closes their eyes when they take a sip? That's not just savoring the flavor. Psychologists suggest this person may be going through some form of pain, stress, or emotional discomfort. and that tiny act of closing their eyes is an unconscious search for relief. Just a brief escape from whatever they're carrying. Next, time you're in a cafe, try watching. You'll never look at a coffee break the same way again. Number 3, your punctuality or the lack of it. We all have that one friend. You know exactly who I'm talking about. They send you a message that says, almost there, 2 minutes away, and you know for a fact they haven't even left the house yet. They're still in the shower, maybe still in bed, and somehow they genuinely believe they're almost there. Maybe that friend is you. Before you feel guilty, let me tell you what psychology actually has to say about chronic lateness, because it's far more nuanced than they're rude or they don't respect your time. Research in metacognitions, which is essentially the study of how we think about our own thinking, reveals that people who are habitually late often have a very specific cognitive profile. Many of them are what psychologists call optimistic, time estimators. Their brains consistently underestimate how long tasks take. They think the shower will take 5 minutes, it takes 15. They think traffic will be light, it's not. And this isn't deliberate deception, it's a genuine flaw in their internal clock. Even more fascinating, many chronically late people are extreme multitaskers. Their brains are simultaneously processing multiple scenarios, running parallel, tracks of thought jumping between tasks, and in all of that mental activity, time simply slips through the cracks. It's not carelessness, it's cognitive overload. Now, this absolutely doesn't mean being chronically late is acceptable, or that it doesn't affect others when it does, and that matters. But understanding the psychology behind it helps us respond with a little more empathy rather than pure frustration. Here's the real tell. Are you someone who arrives 10 minutes early everywhere, or someone who arrives 10 minutes late everywhere? Because both extremes reveal something. The chronically early person is often anxious, hyper-responsible, and deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty. The chronically late person is often optimistic, creative, and genuinely surprised every single time that the world didn't cooperate with their internal timeline. Which one sounds like you? Number 4. How often you check your phone? Be honest with me here. How many times today have you picked up your phone, unlocked it, stared at the screen for a few seconds without opening a single app, and then put it back in your pocket? You didn't have a notification. You weren't waiting for a message. You just grabbed it, like a reflex, like breathing. We all do it. But what most people don't realize is that this behavior is one of the most revealing psychological signals of our time. Compulsively checking your phone isn't really about the phone. It's about emotional regulation. Your brain has learned, through thousands of repetitions, that looking at that bright little screen delivers a tiny hit of dopamine, a small reward, a momentary distraction from whatever discomfort you're currently experiencing. Anxious in a social situation? Check the phone. Bored in a meeting? Check the phone. Uncomfortable silence in a conversation? Phone. Feeling overwhelmed by a difficult emotion you'd rather not sit with? Phone. It's essentially a digital pacifier. And before you feel judged by that, understand that this is an incredibly human response to an environment that's deliberately engineered to exploit your brain's reward system. You're not weak, you're responding to design. But here's the important part. The frequency with which you reach for your phone in moments of discomfort is a direct indicator of how you're currently coping with your mental health. High frequency doesn't mean you're broken, but it is your mind waving a little flag, asking for a break, asking for something more sustainable. And here's something worth noticing in others. When someone pulls out their phone constantly during a conversation with you, because it's not always about you, many times it's a sign that their nervous system is overwhelmed and they're looking for a safe place to land. A little understanding goes a long way. Number 5. How often you make eye contact. Think of eye contact as the volume dial of your social presence. Turn it up, and you fill the room. Turn it down, and you almost disappear. When you're talking with someone, do you hold their gaze? Or does your attention drift away to the floor, the wall, somewhere over their shoulder? The neuroscience here is remarkable. There's a direct link between sustained eye contact and the release of oxytocin, commonly known as the trust hormone. This is the same chemical released during moments of deep connection, hugging a loved one, holding a newborn, sharing a vulnerable conversation. Eye contact can literally trigger that response. Now, before you start judging everyone who looks away, here's something important. Avoiding eye contact does not automatically mean someone is lying to you. That's a common misconception. In reality, people often break eye contact due to cognitive overload. When someone's brain is deeply engaged, processing complex emotions, formulating a careful response, managing feelings of shame or vulnerability, it literally diverts visual attention as a resource management strategy. Looking away helps the brain think, but sustained, confident eye contact, that's a consistent signal of social dominance and high self-assurance. People who can hold a steady, warm gaze tend to be perceived as more trustworthy, more capable, and more emotionally present. So here's your challenge. The next conversation you have today, notice, are you holding the gaze or are you the first one to look away? Number 6, how you treat service workers. I don't care how charming someone is on a first date. I don't care how perfectly they dress, how smoothly they talk, or how many compliments they throw your way. If they're rude to the waiter, walk away. This is what's known in organizational psychology as the waiter rule, and it's one of the most powerful litmus tests for a person's true character you will ever encounter. Here's the core principle. The way someone behaves toward people who seemingly have nothing to offer them, waiters, cashiers, janitors, parking attendants, is the single most accurate indicator of their real emotional intelligence. Not the version they perform for people they want to impress, their actual emotional architecture. Think about it. When you're in a position of perceived power over someone, when they're serving you, when they're dependent on your tip, when they can't really push back, the mask comes off. The internal wiring becomes visible. Does this person extend basic human courtesy automatically, or does courtesy require an audience? The way someone reacts when their order is wrong, when there's a delay, when the service isn't perfect, that reveals their capacity for empathy, their patience under pressure, and how they handle stress when they think it doesn't count. People who humiliate or belittle service workers almost always do so out of profound insecurity. They need to feel dominant. They need a target that feels safe. And that tells you everything you need to know about how they'll treat you the moment you're no longer useful to them or the moment the relationship gets hard. Choose your people accordingly. Number 7, subtly putting others down through condescending. Questions we've arrived. This is the one I warned you about at the very beginning.
And I need you to really pay attention here because this habit is so normalized, so woven into everyday conversation that most people don't even register when it's happening, either to them or from them. You've heard it. Maybe you've said it. Maybe someone said it to you just this week. Wait, seriously? You've never seen that movie? Oh my God, you actually like that kind of music? You don't know who that is? Really?
That's so basic. I can't believe you still do that. On the surface, these sound like surprised reactions, innocent observations, maybe even playful teasing between friends. They are not. Clinical psychology identifies this pattern as an ego defense mechanism, specifically a form of psychological projection. And here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. The person asking these questions is not genuinely surprised by your taste in music, your cultural references, or your choices. What they're doing, often completely unconsciously, is attempting to level the playing field by making you feel small, because somewhere deep inside, they feel inadequate, they feel unseen, they feel like they're not enough, and by making you feel uninformed, basic, or behind, they get to temporarily feel ahead, superior, elevated. It's a compensation mechanism, an ego inflation strategy, disguised as casual conversation. Here's how you can immediately tell the difference between someone with genuine confidence and someone running this program. A truly secure person, when they discover you haven't experienced something they love, a film, a book, a piece of music, a steady
place, responds with joy. They say, oh my gosh, you haven't seen it. You're in for such a treat.
You're going to love it. They're excited for you. They celebrate your discovery. They pull you toward the experience with enthusiasm. The insecure person, they make you feel like you've already failed by not knowing sooner. Watch for this, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And the next time someone sends one of those little verbal jabs your way dressed up as surprise, don't shrink, don't feel embarrassed. What you're actually witnessing isn't superiority. It's a very clear X-ray of their own hidden insecurities, desperately waving for attention. Final reflection: we spend our entire lives trying to project a perfect image. We rehearse what we'll say. We curate how we look. We carefully engineer the
story we want other people to believe about us. But the truth?
Our unconscious always finds a crack to escape through. It escapes in those worn-out sneakers you refuse to throw away, in the direction your eyes drift when you take a sip of coffee and think no one is watching, in that uncontrollable impulse to grab your phone when the silence gets too loud, in how you speak to the person who brings your food, in those little questions you ask that aren't really questions at all. We are not what we announce to the world. We are exactly what we do when we think no one is paying attention, and that's both humbling and liberating, because it means the most authentic version of you is already out there, already visible, already speaking. The only question is whether you're listening to what it's saying. So here's what I want you to think about. Which of these 7 things do you think gives you away the most? Not a friend, not a coworker, you. Think about it carefully the next time you walk out that door, because your body and your mind are already talking. The only question is whether you're ready to hear what they're saying. If this video made you think, made you uncomfortable, or made you look at someone differently, that means it did its job. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop in the comments which of the 7 surprised you the most. I read every single one.